Hello and welcome to Tech Space, a podcast where we look at the most fascinating technology stories and current events. I'm your host, Derek Musso. In this episode, for our main story, we'll take a look at a jewelry store heist, followed by our weekly news roundup, and finally the tech tip of the week. Today I'm joined by
Jackie Dana,
Lisa McKnight,
Rodney Brazil.
Before we start, a quick message to say this podcast is brought to you by Namecheap, the world's second largest domain registrar and a top web hosting provider. Namecheap has everything you need to bring your idea to life with an awesome website. Visit namecheap.com today and learn how you can make more online for less. When you purchase gold, precious gems, or a fancy watch from a jewelry store, you may worry that someone will steal your jewelry, but you may not expect someone will steal and release your personal data. But this is exactly the position facing hundreds, if not thousands, of clients from London high-end jewelry store Graff. Lisa, you recently wrote about this in the tech blog. How did this happen?
Yeah, we certainly did cover this story, which we first saw in the British newspaper, the Daily Mail. The Russian hacker group, which you may know as Conti, initiated a ransomware attack on Graff Jewelry Store and all their computer systems. At the time of this podcast, Conti has not yet announced a ransom or any other demands, but something must be coming because they've leaked nearly 70,000 customer documents on the dark web. Now, given Conti's history, experts say it's likely the ransom will be substantial and that the hackers might demand that it's paid in something untraceable like Bitcoin or even gems.
Do we know what type of attack this was?
Well, we do know the hack wasn't a simple malware attack. It was what's known as a ransom op, which infiltrates not only one computer but the entire network. You might be familiar with online scams, and this one started with what's called a phishing email that was sent to a member of staff. And what they did was probably opened it, clicked the link inside, and that, boom, launched the attack.
Graff has a number of rich, powerful, and famous clients. Do we know if any public figures' personal data was part of this breach?
Indeed, it's no secret that their client list includes people like Oprah Winfrey, Tom Hanks, Samuel L. Jackson, Sir Philip Green, Alec Baldwin, and even David Beckham. It's quite clear that the data released could have widespread repercussions across the whole celebrity world. And I mean, there's the potential for some embarrassing revelations about who bought what piece of jewelry, for how much and when, and who it might have been for even.
That all sounds worrying in terms of privacy, for sure. Rodney, what could the fallout be here for Graff?
Cyber Reason, a company that works to undermine cyber attacks, warns that Graff and its clients could face serious threats from this data breach. Any data about purchases may provide details for future thefts. Graff losing information about their clients' purchase history and expenditures could potentially damage a client's reputation or brand.
What do you do if you're Graff? Do you pay the ransom?
Yes, well, recently we have seen more and more companies pay ransom demands. Time will tell here as this story is playing out, but Philip Ingram, a former colonel in the British military intelligence, did say this to the Daily Mail, quote, "This is going to bring the highest levels of international law enforcement down on the gang, and that's going to give them a whole lot of headaches in trying to get the ransom paid and then get away with it." End quote.
So Lisa, is this a known hacker group, or what do we know about this Conti gang?
Well, they're quite infamous, and they're originating out of Russia, and they've already penetrated the security of more than 400 organizations, including government agencies in Scotland, the Irish Republic, and quite a few American healthcare providers. You know, the last people who paid them a ransom paid £800,000 worth of ransom, so that's just an enormous amount. And they're calling this possibly the biggest diamond heist of all time.
Okay, Rodney, we're talking about a lot of rich and powerful and famous people here who've had their data compromised, but for the average person on the street and the average business owner, what could they do to be prepared for something like this to happen to them?
Well, I think it's a cautionary tale for businesses of any size to think about ransomware attacks, plan ahead, make sure you're protected against them as well as you can, because Oprah's physical addresses being compromised is a big deal, but so are any clients or any customers that you may have had at your business. Your customers' information is just as important as Tom Hanks's personal information.
Next up is Jackie Dana with a roundup of news recently covered in the tech blog. Jackie, your first story is about metal-eating bacteria. This sounds like a horror movie premise.
Doesn't it? Scientists in Chile have discovered metal eating bacteria living in geysers located over 13,000 feet or 4,200 meters above sea level near the Argentinian and Bolivian borders. As reported in Interesting Engineering, one researcher isolated the iron oxidizing Leptospirillum bacteria, already used in some industrial applications, from its preferred metallic meal, and discovered that the colony ate an entire nail in 3 days. The liquid that remained could then be used to leach copper from rock in a less toxic manner than existing processes.
Leptospirillum. That's a that's a mouthful. But Jackie, dare I say, is there a silver lining here?
Possibly. As mining is a very heavy environmental polluter, researchers hope future use of these bacteria will lead to greener mining operations.
Okay. Speaking of being greener, your second story in the roundup is about Chinese government's vow to be less reliant on coal. So what are they promising?
Yeah, what are they promising? In a plan released by the government, China has announced that by 2060, it intends to reduce its use of fossil fuel to below 20%. According to The Guardian, the objective is to stop relying on coal, though paradoxically, the country is still going ahead with new coal-fired power plants in the face of power outages. Cutting coal use puts the country's economic growth in jeopardy, as officials warn fewer power plants would reduce industrial output.
Like millions over the last month, I was captivated by Netflix series Squid Game. I'll also confess that I do own a small amount of Dogecoin just in case. What's this about Squid Game crypto? Did I miss out on not buying into this one early?
Well, I definitely wouldn't say that. A few weeks ago, somebody did create a new Squid Game cryptocurrency to capitalize on the popularity of both the TV show and crypto trading. Proving to be the only winners of the trade, Gizmodo describes how the creators made off with $3.38 million when the cryptocurrency hit a high of $2,861 before cashing out. This is something known in crypto circles as a rug pull, which causes the cryptocurrency to drop to zero in valuation. Everybody that invested in it lost everything.
Jackie, you always save my favorite story in the roundup to the end. The robot dogs are back, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, we can't seem to get away from this story. Over on the blog, we've talked in the past about robot dogs being used in law enforcement. It was just a matter of time before they were fully weaponized, taking on the aspect of the fictional creatures in the dystopian television show Black Mirror. And that reality seems to be here with the partnership of companies Ghost Robotics and Sword International. The two companies have developed a weaponized robot dog dubbed the Special Purpose Unmanned Rifle, or SPUR. This monstrosity has a 6.5 millimeter Creedmoor rifle from Sword mounted on top of a Ghost Robotics euphemistically named Quadrupedal Unmanned Ground Vehicle, a name clearly designed to remove any canine associations.
That's Jackie Dana with the news roundup. Thanks, Jackie. Next up is this week's tip of the week. As always, before we go, I'm going to bring in Rodney Brazil for this episode's tip of the week. Rodney, what do you have for us this week?
Yes, well, we mentioned that China is working to reduce carbon emissions, so I wanted to share a little secret about how all of us techies can reduce our personal carbon footprint right now. When it comes to used electronics crafted from plastic and glass and metal components, recycling is crucial to limiting carbon emissions and also reducing groundwater pollution and keeping the electronic supply chain in motion. But you can't just throw your broken iPhone X into the recycling tub with your wine bottles and peanut butter jars. It's best to return your old devices to a big name retailer. So here in the US, Best Buy, Staples, and many well-known stores accept drop-offs of all kinds of things, laptop batteries, TVs, cell phones, personal computers, printer cartridges, and they'll recycle them for you. Some even offer a store credit on your next purchase. I looked, and Samsung, Apple, and Amazon all offer to pay for return shipping on electronics you send back for recycling.
That's all for this episode of Tech Space, and from me, your host, Derek Musso. Thanks to my co-hosts, Jackie Dana, Lisa McKnight, and Rodney Brazil, and special thanks to Jamie Long and Anastasia Didchenko. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can join us for each episode. Please also leave us 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast so more people can discover the show. Also, for more information about the TechSpace podcast, please visit techspace.news. Also, to read the stories featured in today's show in blog form and to find links to all the sources referenced in our stories, see the episode description or visit namecheap.com/blog. See you next time. Bye.